Hey, welcome back to Songs and Stories from an Animated Mind. I'm Steve Belfer. Here's today's story, Meeting Disney's Top Dog. In one of my earliest jobs working in animation, I met this older guy who was a real grizzled veteran of the animation business. You could even say he was a curmudgeon. And he said to me these words. He said, "Sooner or later, you'll find yourself working for the mouse." Meaning Disney, of course. He was telling me this old story about the old days when they worked for Disney and they were working on Bambi. And when Walt Disney would come into the studio, and apparently a lot of the animators would drink at lunch, and sometimes they would even have beverages hidden in their animation desk. They rigged up this intercom system so that when Walt Disney would come into the studio, when he was on the floor, they would talk on the intercom, and they had this code word. They would say, "The deer is in the forest." They were working on Bambi. "The deer is in the forest" meant, "Walt's here, hide your booze," or something like that. I don't know if this is true, but it sounds like a pretty good story. Eventually, I was working for the mouse. I worked at Disney Online, and I'm in there doing a bunch of internet stuff. It's in North Hollywood. And one day I'm coming to work, and I get on the elevator. And who gets on the elevator with me? There was this guy named Fabio. I don't know if you guys remember Fabio. Fabio was this romance novel cover dream guy. And his shirt was open and his pecs were popping out. He had flowing blonde hair. It's as if there was a fan on him at all times blowing his hair. And he's on the elevator with his female counterpart who looked equally as iconic as Fabio. And it's me and these two people on the elevator going up. It was another day in California. I don't know what to say. It was a memory I'll never forget. Anyway, so I'm working at Disney Online making this fun internet stuff, like early internet games for kids. I was working on this thing, I think Mulan was in production, that featured Cricky, who was the cricket. And we made this sort of digital online Tamagotchi pet where you would feed him and play with him. And I would work with a programmer. It was cool because not only did it have animation, but I was interested in the nuts and bolts of how it worked and how it kept track of stuff and how you could apply those different variables to the character and how they would react. And we get word that Disney's top dog at the time, Michael Eisner, is coming, and I am supposed to demonstrate what I'm working on to him. I was proud of what I was working on. I thought it was cool. Disney Online was on the cutting edge of new technology. The internet was new, and Disney was reaching a new audience. So, of course, the top executive of the company would want to come there and see what all this money is being spent on. So they said, okay, Michael is coming on this date, and we want everybody to clean the office and make your desks look really cool and nice. You see all those empty cubicles over there? We're going to fill them with people. We're going to hire a bunch of people to come in and work for a couple days so that this place is bustling when he shows up. So I noticed this area that was previously vacant. All of a sudden, there are a bunch of new faces in there working away. The day comes. Michael Eisner's supposed to show up at this time, and we're not supposed to take lunch until he's here, and he's delayed, and then he cancels. Okay. I was a little nervous to meet the guy who is the topmost executive of this company. You know, there's a whole power structure with companies. The guy who's in charge actually has a little entourage following him around, looking at their beepers or whatever they had at the time, saying, "Okay, Michael, after this, you have a call with this person. Then you get in the car, and when you're in the car, you have a call with this person. And then you're going to get on the jet, and you're going to go to Florida to the theme park." And it was crazy. They reschedule it for a couple days later. I'm just trying to get my work done. I'm working on the thing. We get word. "The deer is in the forest. Michael is here." So I get my thing all queued up, and you're listening for the elevator to go ding. You hear a little crowd of people going from area to area, showing him the things that we were working on. And now he's coming my way. And I had to rehearse the little spiel I was supposed to say to describe the thing I was working on. And it went fine. So here he comes. He comes into my cubicle. I shake his hand. He's got a baseball cap on, and he had very expensive casual clothes. And he looked at me, he asked me, what are you working on? And he really put me at ease right away. He really connected. He seemed to care. I showed him the project, and he said, "Oh, that's really neat." He asked a couple relevant questions, which of course I could answer. And I kind of thought in the back of my mind, okay, this is the top guy at Disney. He might see my talent and promote me to direct a movie or something like that. That didn't happen. I was good at my job. I gave my speech. And then just as quickly as he arrived, his entourage kind of gathered him back up and moved him along to the next presentation and the next meeting and whatever else the CEO of Disney does all day. In looking back, I was nervous at first, but I was immediately really relieved, and I thought it was a good experience. I was in sort of a mid-level artist position. Not too long after working in this company do I meet Disney's top dog. It made it feel like a smaller company, really, but it was a big company. The key takeaway that I felt at the time was how scheduled this guy was and how every minute of his day was spent making some kind of decision or listening to something and saying yes or no or do it this way. I thought it was really cool how in demand the guy was. But I have to say, it's not everybody who gets to meet the top CEO of Disney and ride in the elevator with Fabio at work. Thanks for listening to Songs and Stories from an Animated Mind. Here's a little song called Dog Park.